Okay, so we had a customer call us because they're hearing a noise from the rear end of the vehicle. We're going on a quick test drive. We don't have to go that far. We just heard it. All right, so we've identified that the noise is indeed coming from the rear of the car. We're gonna remove the brakes, we're gonna remove the rotors, we're gonna replace everything for new. While we're doing that, we're also gonna be inspecting the calipers. We're gonna check that the sliders are sliding well, and then once we confirm that everything is okay with the calipers, we'll be able to put everything back together and we're good to go. What we can see is there's excessive wear on the rotors. If we were to just replace the pads, what would happen is the pads would actually wear a lot faster. So we're gonna play it safe for the customer. We're gonna replace everything for brand new, and they should get longevity out of this new set. What I'm doing right now is I'm loosening up your sliders. So these are what actually enable the caliper to slide in and out. What this spring here is for, it's meant to keep the caliper actually pushed in towards the rotor. Some manufacturers do this, some don't. It all depends on the design of the caliper. The main idea behind this is to make sure that there's always tension going this way. So once we remove this, you might notice that this caliper may spring out. So as you can see, as easy as that, the caliper is removed. Some people like to keep these hanging. Some people like to hang them up. I usually just find a place where it can sit. You never want this to actually hang with holding on to just the brake line. So this is the brake from the front of the rotor, which would be the furthest, which would be the outside, and this is the brake pad from the inside of the rotor. So when it's actually mounted on the vehicle, this is mounted on the outside, and the one with the most wear is mounted on the inside. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna wire wheel inside here, these ways, because when the brake pad's actually in here, you want it to move as freely as possible. And I'm also gonna lubricate it a bit with like a type of anti-seize. That'll help it when these brake pads are going in and out. They're not constantly just putting pressure and seizing themselves in place. So if the car's sitting around for a while, the brake pad's gonna wanna stick. But what the anti-seize will do is it will allow it to actually move once the caliper is released. Make sense? Rotor comes off. So like I was mentioning, on the inside of the rotor, there's a lot more wear than on the outside of the rotor. Reason for that is because the inside of the rotor is taking most of the force of the brake pad. So a bit of a standard practice that we do. Whenever we are replacing parts, obviously we want to make sure that the parts we are replacing, we're replacing them with parts that are identical, or an aftermarket manufacturer has made them the exact same. So I always like to take the brake pads, I like to compare them. So in a box, the way that the brake pads will actually come, you'll notice that there's two different types here. And the two different types that I'm mentioning are this little slot, and one doesn't have the slot. So I'd like to take the new brake pads and compare them with the old ones. So I have one brake pad that matches, and I have two brake pads that match. So that little slot is actually meant for this spring that holds tension on the caliper. We also like to do the same thing with the rotors. So I've got my brand new rotor right here, brand new, in a bag. We'll open that up and we'll compare. So what we'll do actually to compare this is we'll just take the rotors and we'll put them back to back to each other. As you can see, if I put them back to each other, The outside diameter of the rotors is identical. So before we reassemble and we put the new rotor on, what I like to do is I like to put some anti-seize around the hub here. What that's gonna do is when the next mechanic, or if we are the next mechanic that does this job, when they go to actually take this apart again and do the brake job once again, they're not gonna have a tough time. This rotor is not gonna be seized to the hub and everything's gonna come apart nicely. It also helps with rust prevention as well. So putting in a little bit of this copper spray, it helps a lot with lubrication. So this is a must-have for us. And we just lightly spray it around the hub, making sure that we cover all the area. Okay, so that's on there. Now you're gonna see rotors keeps falling off. I simply just take one of the lug nuts off of the wheel, temporarily just screw it on just so I can hold everything together while I'm reassembling. It's not gonna hold it perfect, but it helps it from falling off. Now that we got the rotor on, we're gonna move over to the caliper. Now, with the caliper, there is this certain caliper itself does have two little holes here. That basically tells me that this piston actually needs to turn back in rather than being pushed back in. All calipers are different. Some you have to twist, some you have to push. It all depends on the manufacturer, really. Before we start doing that, we are going to remove this spring. There are new ones that did come with the new brake pads. When I was talking about the caliper having to be spun back in, what I mean is these two little dowel pins actually line up with these two little holes in the caliper. We're going to line these two holes up, insert them, and once we start turning, you should see this piston actually start to compress back into its housing. Before I go and I put the bracket back on for the caliper, I'm just going to take a little wire brush and I'm going to clean up inside these ways, and I'm also going to lubricate it with some copper spray as well. Okay, so we have our caliper bracket installed. I've already cleaned out the ways. I've put a little bit of lubricant in there as well. Back to when I was talking about the brake pads, there are two different types of brake pads from the assembly, the way I took it off. This brake pad with a little slot has a little spring that gets attached to it, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second, and this one does not. So the one without the spring actually gets placed on the front, so I'll install that right now. I'll make sure that it doesn't bind anywhere, it moves freely, and it does. We have our bag with all our new brackets, so I have my tensioner spring and I have my brake pad spring. So the brake pad springs simply will just go into that slot. It'll slide onto it like this. Now that I got my spring on, it's ready to be installed. I'll put that on. Now that we got everything in, our ways are lubricated, we're ready to put our caliper back on. When we're putting our caliper back on, we want to make sure that our brake line and our parking brake line are not twisted or binding at all. Right now, the way the caliper is, there is a little twist in that line, so we're just going to take this We're gonna move everything around, make sure that it's untwisted. We're gonna check our sliders, make sure those slide freely as well. So these are our sliders that go on the back of our caliper. They are a little bit dry, so I do want to put a little bit of grease on them just so that there isn't a chance that they can seize in the future. These brake pads do come with some grease as well, which normally comes in this little packet. I'll break this open, put a little bit on these sliders. We're gonna put our tensioner spring. So as I was mentioning before, what this tensioner spring does is it actually helps keep this caliper pushed towards the inside of the rotor. If I wasn't to install this right now, you'd notice this caliper does have a lot of play. And once I install this spring, you'll actually see that play is gonna go away. So now that we have the full assembly together with the tensioner spring, if you'll notice, I can pull back on that caliper. It's not moving. This is a complete install. We're gonna put the wheel back on and we'll get to the other side. All right, so we've installed the brakes, we've installed the new rotors. We're gonna take this car for a test drive. Before we do go on our test drive, every time we change brakes on a vehicle, we do have to pump the brakes. Because we push the piston back into the caliper, the brake does feel light and there's a lot of fluid that was pushed back into the reservoir. So we're gonna start with pressing brakes. We're gonna pump them until they feel hard. Once they feel hard, we're ready to go on our test drive. Okay, so brake pedal stiff. That means I did a good job. So now we're ready to hit the road. Okay, so that is a completed brake service. If you'd like more information, please click the link below, visit our website. If you're local to Toronto, we'd be more than happy to help you service your vehicle. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.